top story this evening in an incident that raises concerns on the safety measures yet again. Two people, including a minor boy, have been killed in Tamil Nadu during a Jallikattu event. The two people were gored to death by bulls in Tamil Nadu's Sivagangai district today. According to the police, this tragic incident at Siravayal near Madurai did not take place during the exact Jallikattu event, but after the run when the bull owners had gathered to collect their animals. At that point, the bulls ran helter-skelter and the victims were gored to death by separate animals. A total of 186 bulls were part of this Jallikattu event. Earlier, injuries have been reported from other Jallikattu venues too. Now remember, safety norms mandated by the Supreme Court include double barricading of the entire area that is holding that event of Jallikattu and steps to ensure that no animal injuries are taking place or the animal injures the spectators. To talk more on this, let me get in my guests on the broadcast. Ambika Shukla, she's a citizen activist and trustee, People for Animals, joining us. Dr. M.P. Damodaran, head of Department of Anthropology, University of Madras, joins us. And S. Murari, senior journalist, is also joining us. Good evening. Namaskar. Welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for coming on Mirror Now and sharing your perspective. Let me start with you, Ambika. This is not a new incident. Unfortunately, these incidents have taken place earlier as well. And now, once again, this year, we are seeing unfortunate deaths of two people, including a minor boy. Clearly, animal rights activists like you have been voicing your opinions on how animal cruelty should be stopped at such events. What do you really make of this kind of incident happening again and again every year?
Like you've pointed out, this is not a new thing, and it is inevitable. When you gather bulls in one place, when you force feed them alcohol, when you rub chilies on their tails, when you incite them, when you prod them with knives, with sticks, you push them around, you are heightening their nervousness, you are heightening their fear, you are provoking them to be fearful, and a fearful animal will always react. There are people crowding around the bulls. They are pushing them, pulling their tails, pulling their ears, jumping on top of them. What do you expect in such a scenario? The first complaint against Jallikattu many, many years ago was not by an animal activist. It was by a father whose son had been killed. And we have seen the same tragedies repeat themselves year after year after year. This is not just an animal issue. This goes beyond that. We are encouraging something in the name of tradition. It is not a tradition. It is not a sport. It is a cruel farce that is being played out by greedy people who gamble, who drink alcohol. It is nothing to do with religion, culture, or tradition. This is simply turned into a money-making gambling activity from which people make money, and that is the only reason why it is being continued at the risk of people's lives and at the risk of animals' health. So I would truly urge the state of Tamil Nadu to reconsider and to bring back the ban.
Yeah. Okay, S. Murari, what do you make of what Ambika is saying? The fact that this is not a sport, this is just a money-making, event that happens every year at the cost of animal cruelty and at the cost of the loss of human lives.
I'm sorry to say, it's a totally unbalanced view, an extreme view. She has made unsubstantiated allegations like the bulls are being fed with alcohol, are being applied chili and all that, being instigated, hundreds pouncing on them, peering. All that is, I'm sorry to say, it's bull. It is spectator sport and it is part of the tradition, and the Supreme Court has monitored, and everything is, all precautions have been taken. There is ambulance in place and spectators are segregated and the arena is there. And at a time, only 5 or 6 identified bull tamers are allowed to tame, and they are allowed to hold the bull only by the hump, not pull the tail. That's all foul game. There are rules of the game. And likewise, there is a run play arena. Beyond the arena, you are not supposed to chase the animal. What has happened today was an accident that happened outside the arena when they are charging out of it. That is an inevitable action, like a derailment. If a derailment happens, you suspend the entire rail service or restore it and run it. So this is an insult to tradition. You can take. I am all for human rights, but every time, even leather fair, it happens. It is against cruelty. They are taken the extremist position and they are predetermined mind. There is no way they can change. That's why Supreme Court has taken a balanced view and drawn strict guidelines. And the central government, all governments, they have the vets and all this police protection. Everything is there, and even the tamers are allowed and checked before that. What has happened today was an accident and an unfortunate accident, and we feel sorry for that. But you cannot insult the tradition of Tamil Nadu. It doesn't happen only in Tamil Nadu. In Maharashtra, you have the same Rekla race. And Punjab also, you have similar traditions. Bengal, all over India, there are such traditions. In the name of animal cruelty, they agitated in Supreme Court. You have the long history. I don't want to go into all that. After all that, Supreme Court took a balanced view and said there are
yes, we've had these arguments and
these
debates,
implement them.
Favoring and against Jallikattu. Let me understand from Dr. MP Damodran. Dr. Damodran. Okay, Dr. Damodran, yes. There's been this tussle that has been long-standing. We've been seeing it over the past several years. Courts have been involved, governments have been involved, citizens have come on the streets and protested regarding this, whether it's a tradition, whether it is something that needs, the country and the people need for their agriculture, for their economies to boom, or is it just animal cruelty and loss of human lives happening at the cost and for making money? Help us understand what exactly actually the history of this Jallikattu sport is.
Yeah, actually this sport or the game or this tradition used to be evolved out of human-animal associationship. So many things are used to be evolved over a period of time when the humanity used to be actually evolved. At a particular point of history of humanity, we can see these kinds of traditions and customs are used to be naturally evolved. And Jallikattu is one of such custom or a tradition that used to be evolved over a period of time. And over a period of time, it also show a lot of dynamism, changes, alterations, etc., etc. And many of the arguments, I'm not fully agree, but the unfortunate things, I mean, the casualty, injuries, and the kind of cruelty that need to be fully avoided. Actually, government, as per the Supreme Court direction, and also as a state government, a democratic government, to the best of my understanding, taken a lot of measures to avoid such a kind of the unfortunate things. But we can know that.
Can we then say, Dr. Damodran, that that perhaps this Jallikattu sport was actually started perhaps with the noble cause of saving a certain species of bulls, giving some sort of adventure sport in the agricultural economy, the agrarian economy that India has been, and of course boosting the agricultural activities economically as well. But that has somewhere been left behind, and the focus more is on making money and the thrill of it.
Well, there are too many things you can able to understand. Even there are car races, there are bike races. It's very dangerous, right? There are so many people used to be injured, so many people used to be died also. But we are never used to raise any voice to stop all these kinds of the practices. There are mountaineering, there are the trekking. People are used to be going for all these kinds of things. So please, please you see that the things are not able to stop all of a sudden. So centuries and thousands of years, people are used to be following all these kinds of things. The casualty and the injury and the death need to be avoided. So what we can do, we can uphold the spirit of animal-human associationship and the kind of the kind of good values need to be upheld related to our economy, our kind of agriculture and our heritage, tradition, etc., etc. On the other hand, we also need to be strictly adhere the rules and regulations and the kind of the remedies, avoiding those kinds of unfortunate accidents. That need to be done. And more than that,
but unfortunately,
we also need to be create awareness among the people. The people will aware the kind of the casualty, the injury, and the danger, etc., etc. Naturally, they will actually withdraw from all these kinds of things. Imposing an act or a rule or a kind of a law, stopping anything is not possible.
Okay, Ambika, would you agree with that? Let me get in Ambika. Ambika, would you agree with that? That we can go ahead with this sport, we can go ahead with Jallikattu because it has, the economy, the emotions, all of that involved. The people are involved in it. It's a traditional sport, but perhaps we can have stricter guidelines in place, stricter laws, which were given by the court earlier as well, the Supreme Court. But perhaps, they need to be followed more strictly?
We need to follow strictly.
Let me just answer that. Firstly, the analogy with car racing and mountaineering, there's a great difference. The people who are participating that are voluntary, doing it voluntarily. Here, the bulls are being forced. They are not given a choice. They are being beaten. They are being forced. They are being force-fed alcohol and chilies, and all of that is photographed. There is video evidence of this. So this is not an exaggeration. This is not lies. This has been videoed. So, and the Supreme Court has seen these tapes. So when they put the ban on Jallikattu, they saw the extreme cruelty involved, and they said that this sport or this tradition is not possible without cruelty. How do you monitor a mob? When you say we will put more safeguards in place, how do you put safeguards into a riot? You do not. This is a riot situation. When you put bulls into an arena, you frighten them, you stampede them, you cause them to be fearful, you provoke them, you prod them with knives, with sticks, with people jumping on top of them. You have people attacking them from all sides. You are creating a situation which is going to cause harm to both people and animals. And for what purpose? There is no agricultural purpose being served here. Tractors have replaced bulls a long time ago. So there is no agricultural use of these bulls. These are simply being used for this money-making, gambling exercise, which is both illegal in terms of the monies involved, and the kind of gambling is not legal in India. But you have monies being bet on these animals. You have people wagering on these bulls. So that in itself is illegal. The cruelty is illegal. The loss of lives is unacceptable. And this is not a one-time thing. It happens year after year after year. And we are seeing it. And every time the same thing is said, we will put in more safeguards.
To respond to that.
More rules. We will adhere to it more strictly. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. It's not possible. Okay, so you cannot monitor a riot.
S. Murari, what Ambika is saying is also perhaps right in a manner that however much you would like to think that guidelines and laws that have been put in place will be followed strictly, the fact of the matter is that when there is so much of a huge crowd, so much of, energy, adrenaline involved in that sporting event, there tends to be a lot of conflict when we see the human-animal relationship. If humans are not really understanding the strict guidelines and norms, how do you expect the animal to actually understand all of that and behave in a manner that it does not injure anybody else?
Can I come in now, please? if this analogy is to be, if she's taken a very extreme position.
Yeah, Dr. Damodharan, I'll come to you. Let S. Murari respond first.
Yeah, I'm responding now. She's taken a very extreme position. If that is to be carried to logical conclusion, we should ban horse racing. The same logic applies.
There is nothing extreme about cruelty, sir. Cruelty is extreme.
I did not interrupt you when you were talking.
Cruelty is extreme. There is nothing extreme about
that is
opposing
also a sport.
it.
Racing is also a sport. Please, let me speak. And secondly, it is regulated. Of course.
Exactly, but it's voluntary. It's voluntary.
Years ago. Most important
it's voluntary.
Thing is farmers
but it is voluntary,
bulls
sir.
And
this
cows
is not
much
voluntary.
More than any animal activist. Please note that. It is their asset. They love them just like you trade.
There is no element of love in hurting an animal.
Grazing grounds,
there is no element of love involved in hurting an animal.
All that is fine, but even that it's part of the agriculture.
Okay, Ambika, you've made your point. Just let Mr. Murari respond.
Chickens for slaughter are not loving them.
How much they love their cows.
People who rear animals for slaughter are not loving them.
There is no
people
slaughter.
rear animals for slaughter.
I don't want to get into
people who rear animals for slaughter. Can you
have to be taken to slaughterhouse? That is what happens. It's part of the economy. I don't want to go into all that. The point is this is a sport.
Exactly.
Is a sport.
I'm saying you're rearing them for slaughter. That's not love.
The matador kills the
Jallikattu is not a sport.
It doesn't happen
It is not a sport. It's a relatively recent phenomenon.
It's your view.
It is not even a tradition. It is not a tradition. It is not a sport.
That's up to you.
Ambika, let Mr. Murari respond. Ambika, please. He did not speak in between. Let Mr. Murari respond. Mr. Murari, please make your point.
I have been interrupted. I've lost track of it. I'm saying it is an extreme position. So, most important point I want to make, farmers love their cattle, it is their asset. And they have been with them all through. They raise them and bring them up and then have the grazing ground. And then once a year, they bring it to this arena, which is part of our culture, years, thousands of culture. It's all argued threadbare in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has upheld, yes, there has to be a tradition between, respect between tradition and safeguard for animal rights, human rights and animal rights. This has come place and now everything is in place. All that she has taken, chili is being applied and being given rum under this old history. It doesn't happen now. Every arena is checked. Every bull is checked. Every player is checked for if he's drunk or anything like that. And the arena is double barricaded for spectators and there is only a limited run. It is kept in the pen. Somebody said they are kept in the pen for overnight and they are fully charged. Then they are let out. That's cruelty. Where do you keep the shed? You keep it in the house. You keep it in the shed, and it's tethered. If you tether it in freedom of movement, this is taken to extreme, ridiculous extent. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's a good sport with safeguards. Yes.
Okay.
You have to carry on with that. It's after all once a year event. Nothing wrong in that. I see that.
Okay, Mr. Murari, I understand your point and your argument of the fact that there is agriculture, there is economy involved in it. But do you think, Dr. Damodharan, this can be done away with if our rural youth is provided with better sporting facilities, then they can take to other sports? Right now, that argument also is there, that the rural youngsters, the rural youth don't have very many sporting facilities, good sporting facilities that they could turn to, and that's why Jallikattu is there. Also the fact that, one of the reasons that is given for Jallikattu is to preserve a certain species of bull. Don't you think it's a bit of a hypocrisy to actually, be saying that you're saving a certain species of bull while putting it in danger?
No. It is not like that. We need to have a scientific approach to all these things. What are the things, both sides, in support and against Jallikattu? There are too many facts are there. But what we need a very scientific approach to avoid and stop all the casualties, injuries, and all these kinds of unwanted things. Even the gambling or the kind of the use of alcohol and the kind of the money exchanges, etc., etc. All these kinds of things need to be avoided. That's what I initially told at the beginning. Also, I very much stress the thing that it need to have a very scientific approach how we can avoid all these things. So all of a sudden, we cannot stop those kind of what the age-old practices. There are so many such practices we cannot stop. But we can able to make the things something very modern or up to the time. So what time we are actually living? We are not living in a very olden days, right? Our time is actually very much so-called what the modern. So we very much following the modern way of life, scientific way of life. So accordingly, the sport is also need to be think about. So government and the local people and those who are so-called what the stakeholders need to be think about all these things and make the sport something very sport event, not like what harming anybody else, any animal or anybody else spirit or idea as well. That's what we need to think in that way. So in any case, we cannot support the kind of what unfortunate things. Death need to be avoided. Injuries need to be avoided.
Ambika,
the cruelty against the
perhaps,
animal also need to be avoided.
Looking at it from a scientific point of view.
Yeah, my point is, make the people understand. Make the people to understand.
How does one do that, Dr. Damodharan?
Jallikattu was banned for several years.
Decades, for years. How do you
Jallikattu was banned for several years,
understand?
And it did not do anybody any harm.
Sorry?
Yeah, Jallikattu was banned for several years on Supreme Court order.
For example,
and it was a successfully carried out ban.
There was no... I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, one at a time, please. Ambika, make your point.
No
I'll come to you, both you gentlemen. Ambika, please make your point.
Yeah. Firstly, Jallikattu was banned for several years. Okay, it was a successfully carried out ban. Nothing happened. There was no resistance. This was happened when Dr. Jayalalitha was the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, and the ban was successful. It was re-agitated. The subject was re-agitated several years later when the Supreme Court stepped in and put in some guidelines, etc., and then it was turned into a state subject because they couldn't bring it in through the animal cruelty because they couldn't surpass that. So a new legislation was created, and it was brought in, actually through a different route. But it did not pass the animal cruelty test at all. Secondly, in the name of tradition, we've had other cruel traditions. Sati. Sati was a tradition that far is much older and much deeper than Jallikattu, which is a relatively recent happening. So when Sati could be done away with immediately, it did not take years and years of education or read this thing. It was simply, they said no. The British said, we will not have Sati. And they said, we will erect
No, but Ambika, comparing Sati with Jallikattu is perhaps not fair.
And it was just...
also the fact that those who are in favor of Jallikattu say that
it is a tradition
and
the animals suffer
this is not bullfighting, this is actually bull taming.
This is as cruel. This is as cruel, ma'am, because what happens here is you let these defenseless bulls in. You have people jumping on top of them to try and snatch something that is on top of their heads. The people jump in, not one at a time, but scores of them jump in all together. The bull is frightened. The bull actually has been known to jump over the barricades and hit a bus because the bull was so terrified. And bulls die. Okay, so it is as cruel as bullfighting. Do not imagine that because it is not killing the bull outright, that it is not cruel. Killing a bull, you do it in many, many ways. They go into traffic, they run amok, they get run over. Would you think it is all right to be cruel to a bull except kill it? Would you permit cruelty in the sense of frighten the bull to death and all you don't do is pierce its heart? That's all. But the cruelty that is involved, is it a civilized thing to do? Is it something that we do for entertainment? Is it something that we would permit? We would permit just for fun, for thrills.
Okay, Ambika.
There is no benefit that we accrue. There's no benefit to us.
But that's the argument in favor of it, Ambika, that it's not just for the fun and thrill of it. It has various reasons attached to it, which is why it was started and which is why it continues in the rural economy specifically.
There's no agrarian reason for it.
Murari,
the bulls are not being used for agriculture.
Can I come in, please?
These bulls are not being used for agriculture.
Can I come in, please? That's not bringing larger pictures
Ambika,
like
you've made your point.
and
Murari,
economy
please
and
go ahead.
cattle wealth and all that. Of course, not in a half-an-hour debate in this format, but simple point is, all the logic, all the arguments the animal activists have said can apply equally to horse racing. She has not answered that. The horses are whipped. There was a time the horses were given rum, that now it is prohibited under the rules. And there are heavy betting on that. It happens all over the world. Second point is, there was a time when these activists used to agitate against the leather fair. It also used to be held only in Tamil Nadu. What happened to that campaign now? So they still call for that. We have leather export account for one-third of total exports in India. There is economy involved. Are you going to agitate on that? There has to be a balance between the animal rights and human rights and practical pragmatism. You can't take it to extreme use. Culture is there. You respect the culture, you respect the animals, and farmers respect the animals much more than any of these activists. That's my last point. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up here. Ambika Shukla, Dr. Damodran.
So if you respected the animals,
Dr.
why would you
Damodran, quickly, 30 seconds, and then we'll wrap it up.
Create awareness among the people. That is the best solution.
Okay. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Ambika Shukla, Dr. Damodran and S. Murari, thank you very much to all of you for sharing your perspective on Jallikattu on Mirror Now. And thank you very much for joining us this evening. All right, with that, we're slipping into a short break. News and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to Mirror Now.